I think we can all agree that sometimes life just really stinks. I mean, there's times where it's just like, man, nothing can go my way. I can't catch a break. I can think of a few times in my life where I was going through one of these phases or seasons, and man, it was just not fun. I remember last year there was an especially rough stretch where my room was infested with bed bugs and I had to sleep on the floor for like 2 weeks, and then all 3 of my roommates told me at the same time that they were leaving, which now that I think about it, might have had something to do with the bed bugs. No, I'm just kidding, it didn't. Anyways, I was gonna have to find a new place to live with not much time to spare at all. Yeah, so then clearly life was not good. I obviously wasn't sleeping well, with visions of bed bugs crawling in my pillows and sheets and feasting on my blood. And then I was constantly anxious and worrying about where I was gonna move in a few months. Needless to say, I was not thriving. However, as you could probably guess, this suffering did not last forever. It did end and life returned to normalcy. And honestly, the same goes for our faith and spiritual life as well. There are always going to be times in our spiritual life where our highs are really high and our lows are really low. We'll be on fire for God in one season and then questioning certain things in the next. And just like I was for a bit, there are some times we are not thriving in our faith. But guess what? No matter how long it's been, no matter how tough the times are, no matter how anxious and stressed you are, it is never too late to thrive. There's a great example of this in the Gospel of John, where Jesus meets a man who's definitely not thriving. In chapter 5, starting at verse 1, it goes, "Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, asked him, 'Do you want to get well?' 'Sir,' the invalid replied, 'I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. When I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me.' Then Jesus said to him, 'Get up, pick up your mat and walk.' At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath, and so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, 'It is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat.' But he replied, 'The man who made me well said to me, pick up your mat and walk.'" Now this man had been disabled for 38 years. He was clearly not thriving and had become understandably frustrated that he was unable to get into the pool. However, even 38 years is not too long and too late to thrive. You see, the first question that Jesus asked him was, "Do you want to get well?" And I think sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes when we are stuck in sin or not thriving for a while, we consciously or subconsciously don't want to get well, or at least don't want to do the real work to get back on track. It seems like we're too far away from the light, or honestly, the sin that we keep returning to is actually, and unfortunately, enjoyable for us. We would rather wallow where we are instead of clawing our way out of the hole. Now, for the rest of us who want to thrive and are struggling to get there, there's something we can always turn to, and that's just to ask for help. We can obviously always ask our Lord for help, but we can also ask His people too. I know it can be scary or embarrassing sometimes to ask for help, especially when we might have been struggling with something for a pretty long time. However, it is never too late to ask for help, and God puts certain people in our lives for a reason. So with His help and others' support, we can all get to a place where we're thriving in our faith. So even when life is just the worst, and it seems like it'll never get better, remember, it's never too late to thrive. No matter what hole you've dug yourself into, no matter the challenges that arise, God is there with you to help you get back up on your feet.